Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I am back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be a review of what I think the standings will be for the Western Conference in the 2019 to 2020 season. So basically, I'll be going through seeds 15 through 1 and talking about which teams I think will place where and who will then ultimately make the playoffs and what seedings they'll be in. I'll probably do a separate video regarding like playoff predictions. This will just be a regular season standings predictions. And I do want to note, like, this is not me doing like a power ranking saying, like, okay, the number one team is the best team in the West. I don't think that that's necessarily true because a lot of teams don't try very hard during the regular season just because they don't really care about seeding. So just know that it doesn't necessarily mean if you're the one seed that you're like the best team. Without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to start at 15 and work my way up to 1. So as the 15th worst team in the league next year, worst team in the West next year, I should note, I have the Memphis Grizzlies at 25 and 57. I think that Memphis is going to get slightly better with Ja Morant, but I think just with the amount of teams in the West that are going to be talented, I think that they're going to struggle still. Their core, you're looking at Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, Valanciunas, and I think while that's a decent core, I also think it's not nearly good enough to compete with any serious contenders in the West, and so for that reason, I think they'll take quite a few lumps and finish at 15. Next at 26 and 56, finishing 14th in the West, I have the Phoenix Suns, who again I think similar to Memphis. You've got Devin Booker, you've got DeAndre Ayton, you've got Ricky Rubio and Saric sort of as your supporting pieces, but I'm not sold on this team. They brought in a guy, Aaron Baines, who I think they're predicting to be better than he will be. And I don't know, I'm just not sold on this team. They also gave away TJ Warren for basically nothing. They gave him away for I think like cash to sign Ricky Rubio, which I don't think was a smart move considering he was like their second leading scorer and a pretty good offensive player. They do have Devin Booker and Ayton, and I like that duo a lot, but I still think outside of them, I don't really like this roster, so they'll finish pretty low here. Now I think there's a pretty big jump here because I think we go from teams that are definitely not contenders to teams that uh, still not like championship contenders, still not serious contenders, but they on any given night they could beat any given team. That's what I'll say. They probably wouldn't make the playoffs, but they could beat like any team on a given night. And so first off at 13 at the 13 seed, who I think will finish 34 and 48, that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. This team still is not bad despite everybody wanting to write them off. They've still got Chris Paul, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, Nerlens Noel, Steven Adams. Those are a lot of NBA quality players, and I still have confidence in them. They've also got Andre Roberson, who's still a pretty good player. They've still got the makings of a fringe playoff team, but just I think Chris Paul is about 2 years past where you need him to be. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is about 2 years away from where you need him to be. Gallinari is probably right where you need him to be, but he's going to be looked to be almost a primary scorer on this team. When on a really good team, he should be like the third leading scorer. So from that perspective, I think he is going to be good, but just not be as good as what this team needs. Steven Adams is a likely trade candidate because he's 25 and can still add a lot of value to a younger team. But yeah, I think on a given night this team can give anyone fits, but because the Western Conference is so tough, they will not make it to the playoffs. But if they were in the East, it could be a different story. They could be like a 500 team and maybe make it. After them, at the 12 seed, I have the Timberwolves, who I'm predicting to finish 38 and 44. I think that some people think that the Wolves are going to be like a 30-win team this year. I think they're going to be quite a bit better than that. They are going to have a healthy Karl-Anthony Towns. Wiggins, I think, has actually never missed an NBA game. I may be wrong about that, but I think at most he's missed like 2 games in a given season. So you're going to have your two primary scorers healthy. Also, things that are underrated that are going to make a difference is that a guy like Jeff Teague, who missed nearly, I think, over 50 games last season, and I'm not saying that Jeff Teague is the key to this team, but he is a starting point guard that can get you 15 points per game. And so with him back healthy, hopefully for a full season, that will make a difference. And then also, if you factor in that Robert Covington, essentially didn't play for the team once they pulled the Jimmy Butler trade. He was like he missed I think like around 60 games last year. So having him back for a full season, presumably healthy, will also help this team a lot. So you're looking at like those four, along with a mixture of role players like Jordan Bell, Noah Vonleh, Josh Okogie, and Jarrett Culver. I don't expect too much out of those other four guys, but those first four I think could be a pretty solid core, but still in a tough Western Conference, it's not going to be good enough to get very far. So moving on to the 11th seed, I have the Pelicans, who I'm also predicting to finish 38 and 44. I think this is a much more talented team than the Timberwolves, but their record is going to reflect the same thing just because they're all so young and they still really need to learn how to play together. Like before this season, out of the main guys playing, Drew Holiday was the only one already on the Pelicans. And I think that they're going to be a good team in like 1 to 2 more seasons, but just for this season, I think Zion's going to have more growing pains than I think people want to believe. Just, he's doing really well in the preseason, but again, nobody tries in the preseason, so I don't think we can tell that much from that. And besides that, I think Lonzo's still got to get back and get like right from his injury. Brandon Ingram and Drew Holiday will be good, but I just want a little more proof before I say this team is going to like make the playoffs or something. At the 10 seed, I have the Mavericks at 40 and 42. I like this team a lot, but sort of same thing as these other two that I've been talking about, like a good young team, but the West is just so stacked with teams that are trying to win right now that teams that are on the come up are not going to be that great as far as standings go. I have them at 40 and 42. I think Doncic will again be great. I think Porzingis will be good, but probably not even all-star level if I'm being frank. I think he'll probably average like 18 points and 6 rebounds a game. I think he is going to be healthy, but he will have to adjust to taking like a year plus off from the NBA. Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, Jalen Brunson, JJ Barea, Courtney Lee, all decent role players. I might as well throw in Dwight Powell and Boban Marjanovic. All decent role players, but I think for them to be like as good as they're supposed to be, we'd have to see a little bit more progress from Doncic and Porzingis. And what I mean by that is like if you take that role of supporting players and put them with like Harden and Westbrook, that's a great team. But I think Doncic and Porzingis still have to develop a little bit more before those guys who are like win now role players are as effective as they could be. Um, and I don't know what to think of Doncic because I think his rookie year he was sort of given complete control over the team and kind of just said like, okay, go out there and win Rookie of the Year. That seemed to be like what the message and the mission was. But this year, I think they're going to be trying to win more, so I'm not sure if he will actually slightly regress statistically. It remains to be seen. At the 9th seed, I have the Kings, who I think are going to be one of the most fun teams in the NBA. The Kings have a really good core of Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Trevor Ariza, Harrison Barnes, Boban Bogdanovic, excuse me. I really like the pickup of Dwayne Dedmon too. I think that's an underrated pickup, and he is an upgrade over Willie Cauley-Stein because Dwayne Dedmon's a better rim protector, and he can shoot threes, which I think is huge for this team. So yeah, overall, I like their pickups of Ariza and Dedmon, and I think that just the internal growth of Bagley and De'Aaron Fox will also pay dividends for this team. So I have them at 9, finishing at like 41 and 41. So at 8 now, I have the San Antonio Spurs at 42 and 40. We're officially into the playoff teams now. I think the Spurs still have enough juice to hold on, and I think they're win now oriented enough that they can still slip into the playoffs. You got DeRozan and Aldridge still in their primes, and I think just honestly on those two guys' backs, they can just sneak into the playoffs barely. They got a plethora of supporting role players who know how to do their job. Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Patty Mills, a good plethora of point guards to switch in and out. Besides that, Jakob Poeltl, decent young guy. Rudy Gay, Marco Bellinelli, also pretty decent players still. So, just like a good cast, but just slightly worse stars than other teams have that are going to be above them. At 7, I have, this is probably maybe the first one that people get upset over. I have the Portland Trailblazers at 47 and 35. And at 7, you may be saying, what? They were like the 3 seed last year and the 3 seed the year before. How do you have them so low? I think I have a theory on the Trailblazers that they've really benefited from what has been, besides the Warriors, a relatively weak Western Conference over the past couple of years. So, like last year, you had the Warriors, and I can honestly say that I don't really feel any other team was a legitimate contender. Maybe the Rockets, but they didn't seem right all year. The year before that, you had the Rockets and the Warriors, but really nobody besides those two teams. Whereas I feel like normally the Western Conference is known as this conference where you have like at any time 7 to 10 teams that could go out and win 50 games in a season. The West is finally back to that this season, and so for that reason, I think the Blazers will be a little bit lower than normal at the 7 seed. They're also a team that preaches like, oh, chemistry is the biggest key, and I think that talent outweighs chemistry, honestly. And I don't think that they made any notable enough acquisitions to make me bump them up higher. Hassan Whiteside is a good player, but he's essentially just replacing what Nurkic was going to give them. And then they essentially just traded Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore, and I think that Kent Bazemore is a slight upgrade, but not enough to make a huge difference. So I got them at 7, and finishing at 47 and 35, if I didn't say that already. Next, I have the Warriors as the 6th seed, finishing at 50 and 32. I still believe quite a bit in this team. I think that Steph, people are kind of forgetting that Steph is the caliber of player that he is. Um, he's still a 2-time MVP. They still have an all-star in D'Angelo Russell. They still have an all-star in Draymond Green. You're going to have a trio of all-stars healthy for the whole season, and then get another one back at the all-star break in Klay Thompson, who will have taken enough time off to be healthy, I think. So you'll have 4 all-stars going into the playoffs, and their regular season record may be a little bit worse at 50 and 32, but I still think they have decent supporting role players, and Willie Cauley-Stein, Kevon Looney, Glenn Robinson III. It's not that bad. Yeah, I still got confidence in the team, and I think Steph is going to average like 32 points per game. But it's still going to be a good team, I think, a team to fear. Okay, at 5, I have the Lakers at 52 and 30. I would have them higher, but I think they are going to do some of the stuff where like LeBron just takes off a random 10 games during the regular season. And just because of the age of their roster, I think that they might go a little bit easier in the regular season. So I have them down here at 52 and 30. I do like the roster quite a bit, but I just think because of the age of their players, they'll be taking more games off. At 4, I have the Jazz at 53 and 29. A really good Jazz roster. Some people are saying that they can like win the championship this year. I think that may be a little bit overblown. I think Mike Conley is a good addition and upgrade, and I think Bogdanovich is too on the wing. Bojan, he averaged like 18 points per game last year. I don't know if that's enough to take you from a first round exit last year to like the finals though, especially in such a crowded West. The Jazz are that team to me where I'm thinking like, they could make a surprise and get to like the Western Conference Finals, and then let's say like the Clippers have like a major injury, or somebody else like the Rockets or the Lakers have a major injury, and then I could see the Jazz like vaulting up and making the NBA Finals. But I don't think just like on their own merits with everybody healthy on all teams that they could do it. Sort of like how if the Warriors would have had Durant and Clay healthy for the whole series last year, I don't think Toronto probably would have won. It's kind of like that. Like I think the Jazz are capable, but they'll probably need like a good break. At the 3 seed, I have the Clippers at 55 and 27. Again, a thing where I think Paul George and Kawhi are each going to take a minimum of like 15 games off, just because they each have their own respective health problems periodically. Um, And I think that they'll be really good when they all are playing, but they'll want to take a lot of rest. So I don't think that they'll finish as high as they could. So 55 and 27 to me. At the 2 seed, I have the Rockets, who I think are one of the teams where I think that they're gonna finish better than what they are going to be. I think they're probably like the 5th best team in the West, but because they're gonna just try so hard in the regular season and go all out with 2 dudes who are just ballers during the regular season, they're going to have a really good record that reflects that. I'm predicting them to go 56 and 26. I'm predicting Westbrook to probably average like 25, 8 and 8, and Harden to average like 28, 7 and 7. This is a really good duo, and people are really underrating them because they think they're ball hogs. But everyone said the same thing about Harden and Chris Paul before they won 65 games, so I think take it all with a grain of salt. And then lastly, at the number 1 seed, finishing 58-24, I have the Denver Nuggets. I think in a Western Conference where a lot of the big contenders are going to have their major players taking nights off, I think that Denver is going to have young enough guys where they're going to play everybody all the time. There's going to be no load management. Everybody's just going to play whenever they're available. You know, Jokic will play 80 games. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, well, not Paul Millsap, but the rest of those young guys will all be playing like 75 plus games, I would think. Paul Millsap probably more around 70 just because of his age, but they've got a really good young bench too. Monty Morris, Malik Beasley. They've just got a really nice young team, and I think they're going to try really hard during the regular season because to young teams, the regular season matters a lot more. So I'm predicting Denver when you hit the intersection point of young talent and um, yeah, really just youth and talent. I think this is where you get is the number 1 seed. It's gonna kind of be like the early LeBron James Cleveland teams that had like 60 plus wins and would finish as the 1 seed, but then they weren't necessarily the best team in the East, but because they were all so young, they finished that high. Like LeBron was like 23-24 during some of those seasons where they were finishing with 60 plus wins. I think it's going to be a little bit like that. 58 wins in a crowded West. They'll be the 1 seed, but they probably won't make the NBA Finals, is my take. So, my predictions, guys. If you have any thoughts, leave them below. Feel free to leave your own standings predictions below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.